Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time with Tasha. I'm Tasha Berner. I represent coastal San Diego in the state legislature and the assembly. And this is my podcast to learn about more what's going on with California. And today I have with me a special guest, one of my really good friends, Dr. Darshana Patel, who represents the 76th District. She's a former Poway Unified School Board member. We actually have this great story. Can I tell the story?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tell the story.
So this is a story I tell all the time about Darsh. So before she was on the school board and before I was on the city council, we had mutual friends. And so we were in, was it Anza Borrego?
Anza Borrego.
We were in Anza Borrego.
Agua Caliente, actually.
Agua Caliente, that's where we were.
Yep.
And we had gone camping together, and she's like, I'm thinking about running for school board. And I was like, who are you? I was like, I'm thinking about running for council. She's like, who are you? Then your husband reminded me there was a fire, and we got evacuated, right?
Yep.
And so we had this like brief interaction, and we're like, okay, we have to get in contact with each other. And then we just saw each other all the time at all the different things.
And then I was in a photo shoot for you.
That's right. You were in my photo shoot. Oh my gosh, I had forgotten about that. On my first podcast, I talked about my name because people look at my name and they get so confused. Like, I don't know what happens when people say a B-O-E-R. I was like, didn't you learn about the Boer Wars? Like, I mean, I'm a history buff, but like, I don't understand. But when I first met you, I was like, I met you and you said my name's Darshana Patel, right?
Yeah.
And so then I saw it and there was an extra A in the middle. I was like, is it Darshana? Is it Darshana? Like, and you're like, tell people how to pronounce your name because everybody here is pronouncing it incorrectly, or I am. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
No, it's not you at all. And it's phonetic. And the name, it's a classic traditional Indian name. And it's broken into syllables. So if you look at it phonetically when it's written out, someone might say it's Darshana or Darshana, but it's really Darshana. And the way you can get to that is, as I told you, you kind of drop the second A. And then it just flows much more easily.
I just call you Darsh.
Yes.
That's what I do. That's, even though I don't let people call me Tosh, which is funny.
Well, because you're Tasha.
Yes, I'm Tasha. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we talked about how we met in the desert camping during a fire. But what is your path to assembly? Why did you even, I told you not to come up here because it will kill part of your soul, but like, tell us why you wanted to come up here and what's your path.
And I've heard the saying, friends don't let friends run for state assembly.
Well, I let you. Also, I don't think we should tell other women what to do.
Well, that's true.
Right? Like, if you want to do it, you just should know what you're getting into.
Yeah,
right?
because we've already got our minds made up. Let's be real, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, for assembly specifically, it was my experience on the school board, really. As I got more and more involved in the school board, I was a CSBA delegate. So
tell people what CSBA is. Normal people don't know what CSBA is.
Yeah, it's the California School Boards Association, and it's the representative body at the state level for boards of education. And so what we were able to do in CSBA is be involved in committees, and I chose to be on the legislative committee. And so that gave me the opportunity to read through bills, and I saw bills that were just would not have been feasible. They would not have been bills that we could implement. And I was thinking, wow, we need someone who's an actual school board member with legislative experience representing this community at the state level.
Oh, we should tell people where you represent. She's just east of me, so I know where she represents. Right. But you should tell people where you represent.
So the 76th Assembly District now includes the north part of the city of San Diego. So those are the communities of Rancho Bernardo, Carmel Mountain Ranch, Rancho Penasquitos, Torrey Highlands, and Carmel Valley. And then a lot of county unincorporated communities, including Rancho Santa Fe, Forest Ranch, Black Mountain Ranch, Elfin Forest del Dios, and many, many others. And then it goes all the way up to San Pascual Valley. It includes Escondido, not the unincorporated part of Escondido, but Escondido, San Marcos, and little bits of unincorporated Vista. Mm-hmm. And I believe I have a precinct in Bonsall.
So you were a school board member, you were on CSBA, which is like you would come into my office and you guys would advocate on bills. And I was like, thank God. I came up through the PTA as a PTA mom, so I was very grateful for school board moms. Why don't you tell us about being a mom and how that influences you as a legislator?
Yeah.
How that you think that will influence you as a legislator.
Well, I can't help but think of how anything we do is going to impact future generations, right?
Me too. I know.
And when you're a mom, you really feel that deep, embedded responsibility towards future generations. Not just your own kids. It's not a selfish thing where you're just thinking about your own kids or even your children's friends, but it's their whole generation. Yeah. You hear their anxieties, you hear what they're worried about, you hear their joys, and you want to make sure that they can have a planet to live on, fresh air to breathe.
I always say,
clean water.
I always say, my daughter is actually really paranoid right now about clean water. She has to do a project in English about it. And she gets really upset, and I don't know if I've traumatized her because I talk about pollution and clean water in a way that's very adult and very legislative, but she hears all those calls at home.
Yeah.
But I always also say I want to save the planet for our kids.
Right.
Right.
And then they also bring in the perspective of, accessing higher education and what's causing anxiety. They're worried about jobs and their economic stability. Whether I have a 19-year-old, she worries whether she'll ever be able to own her own home. Yeah. And you hear these things, and definitely it's in the press, it's in the media, it's in our communities. But when you hear it that closely, when it's that close to home, women's reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, they worry about their friends, and it holds us accountable.
Yeah.
As lawmakers.
It does. So with all of that, what are you most excited about? You're a freshman.
Yeah.
I'm going into my 7th year now. So I think on the Democratic side, I'm the dean of the San Diego delegation, which is oh God, Lord help us all, But I was talking with one of your colleagues last night. She's like, how do you do this? I was like, it's hard. I work out a lot. I really focus on food. I meditate more than somebody probably should meditate, But what are you most excited as a freshman coming in?
That's a really good question. I'm excited about a lot of things. Our freshman class is amazing.
It's huge.
It is the largest freshman class, and we now have the most diverse state legislature ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting to be working with colleagues from all different backgrounds, but the thing that I've noticed is we all really care.
Yeah.
We all really care about our communities and want to do what's right for our communities. And I feel like we're kind of coalescing around these economic issues.
Yeah.
And so when you
when you say economic issues, we're not talking about econometrics, right?
No, we're talking bread and butter, kitchen table.
Yeah.
Can we have homeowners insurance? Can we have accessible health care and health insurance covering the procedures that we need, that our doctors tell us that we need, right? Trusting in the medical system and having to have the gateway of insurance dictate what access of care we get.
I mean, I have to say, in the 7 years I've been here, it's been a constant battle. Yeah. Constant battle of this is not covered. And then you go into the weeds and you find out why that's the case. And then you have to go back to a normal human and tell them, you're having all these challenges. I have a girlfriend going through an insurance issue right now. And I have to go back and I have to tell her, well, the complicated issue is they have this right to do that because it's privatized, right? It's private, and they could just decide not to insure people in California. That's what happened with a lot of the homeowners insurance the last couple of years. They just decided to leave, and they can, And so I always think it's this balance about, I call it affordability, because that's, during the pandemic, and when our gas prices were so high. Yeah. Our gas prices were so high.
Much higher than any other state. Much higher than even if you calculated the extra taxes and fees that we charge in California. It still didn't make sense.
None of it made sense. And it's just price gouging.
Yes.
We know that, and I think a lot of our constituents know that too.
Yes.
But when the gas prices were so high, the calls I got to my district office, I got maybe 10 calls. This is my old district too, that was just North County, San Diego. It wasn't just the entire San Diego coast. It was, and I got hundreds though on utility prices.
Yes.
I got hundreds on utilities, and I was like, they were calling about water, and they were calling about the essentials they need to live, but we weren't doing good at it. So we weren't doing enough what I would call consumer protection.
Yes.
And I think that's where I focus a lot of my work, is on that consumer protection piece of making sure normal people living a normal life don't have to think about, do I wash my laundry today? Or do I take a shower? Or do I cook? Or, how do I afford these things?
It's one of those interesting things. I had this conversation. I'm PTA mom as well, right? That's how some of us got our start.
PTA moms, be careful. Careful, you can end up in the state assembly.
It's a good skill set.
That's a good skill set.
A lot of the moms are asking, why are water rates and energy rates higher for homes during the day? Because that's when moms get their work done.
Of course. Of course. I never thought about it.
And sure, maybe it affects businesses more, and so businesses pay a higher rate. But why are homes?
Yeah.
Why can't we differentiate between household water and electricity compared to businesses? Yeah. And these are the basic questions when you're talking about people who are at home doing their own work, trying to balance their budgets. They don't have housekeepers. They don't have gardeners. They're being a stay-at-home mom, and they're taking care of business at home, and yet they're dinged for doing that.
Which is weird, because when you think about renewable energy and solar and wind, that's usually highest during the day. Like solar is highest during the day. It's cheapest during the day. And we have excess that we sell off to other states.
Yes.
So
why are we charging higher rates to homes during the day? And it also impacts people who work swing shifts.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. These are things that everyday bread and butter kinds of issues that when you're out there campaigning, canvassing as a mom, right? You're talking to other moms and you hear these concerns that affects them.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
these
true.
Affordability issues.
And the other category in that are your small business entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Who are, entrepreneurs rarely start out, unless you're in Silicon Valley, which we're not.
Really in an office?
They start out in someone's garage.
Yes.
Usually.
Or a kitchen table.
Or my businesses have all started at a desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where mine have started. Mine is my stay-at-home desk. And, that's usually the start of something. And, how that affects entrepreneurship is also really important. So when you think about that and you think about what you want to do this year, what are your, top three priorities for this year?
Yeah, top 3 priorities, definitely the affordability issues. Whatever dent we can make in that, I think will be really impactful to our constituents at home. I also really want to take on helping our youth and mental health.
Okay, that's so important.
And there are many facets of that, right? There's the access to the workforce, making sure insurance covers social workers and psychologists, making sure we have the workforce, but also destigmatizing accessing care. So there are many angles I could approach this with, and we're working on our bill packages still. We haven't had our committees assigned, so that makes it a little tricky.
Yeah.
So what angle and approach we're going to use. And of course, in this budget climate, we have to look at things that don't cost a lot of money. Otherwise, they're not going to get approved.
Well, one of the things that I look at when I'm looking at legislation is sometimes you need subsidies, but sometimes throwing money at it doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, sometimes it's carrot.
Sometimes, and sometimes it's what are the parameters that we can change that help people talk about something more. If we don't talk about it and say, yeah, my mental health wasn't good, then other people aren't going to talk about it. It's like we could destigmatize a lot of things by how we do things. Yeah. It's not always what you do, it's how you do it. By the way, that cinnamon rooibos tea, there's no caffeine in it. There's some honey there, but we forgot the spoons. So,
that smells really good.
It's really good. I know.
I'm bringing a large suitcase with me. I rarely travel with a large suitcase, so that I could fill little things in there. Yeah. I brought up my office blanket because sometimes the office gets cold, and I heard that we work late at night. And the kids miss me, but thankfully they're a little older.
Yeah.
One's in college already. One's a senior. She'll be graduating soon. And the other's a freshman, very independent, fiercely independent.
I know, you're swearing in my kids. We're so happy to meet your kids. They're like, there are people, and I was like, I know, it just only took 7 years.
Yeah. There are real people.
But they were camping together.
Yes.
I was like...
and none of them remember.
None of them remember. And it was so funny. Remember when we were at the night before swearing in, I hosted that little thing, and it took them still 3 hours to warm up to each other, and now
They're like stuck like glue.
I know. It's like you guys hung out camping somehow in the dirt, and agua caliente was not a problem, but now we're here and we have nicer clothes on.
Yeah.
And now you like can be all shy and weird, but they weren't teenagers back then. They were little kids back then.
Teenagers have their own thing.
I know. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm not really clear how to get through the next 4 years with.
They'll get through themselves.
Oh no, Mate's going off to college, but Mai is gonna. She's in 8th grade still, so I have 4 years of a high school teenager at home. So your new class. How many of you are there?
I think 23.
There are 23 of you. I came in a class of 8.
Yeah.
We were so tiny. We thought, and we were like, we were just grateful to be
and
there.
HR is very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because all of us are putting in our hiring requests and asking for adjustments and wanting, specific things in our offices and talent out of our staff, and hiring 23 all at one time is really challenging.
It is. And they did it once before. I think the class of 2012 was the last class that was that big.
Yeah, and last year the class was pretty big too, from what I remember.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 18 or something like that, which was overwhelming, but it's not like 23.
Yeah, but we are 23 members who are very ambitious.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, everybody. No one gets up here and they're not
all
ambitious.
of us want all of our full offices hired right away. None of us are willing to be patient. Which means a lot of resumes to look through. But the HR staff has been very gracious and generous with their time.
So what is one aspect of becoming an assembly member that you didn't expect?
Oh, geez, because I talked to you a lot about it.
I know.
I kind of knew what I was walking into.
I know, I warned you.
Our bill packages are smaller this year.
Yeah.
And I think that's good.
To be honest, I've never moved more than 35 bills in 2 years. It's a lot of bills, and I write a lot of bills myself, so if you're doing things that are like off the beaten path or that are kind of a unique approach, you don't want to run that many. I got 4 bills signed by the governor last year, and I was really happy with that. They were all quality things. They were all things that impact lives. I don't have a quantity over quality approach.
Yeah, and I think if you talk to the average person out there in your district, they would say, why do you need to pass 50 bills every session?
Yeah.
Right? Per legislator, right? It's an overwhelming amount of new legislation to even contemplate for the state of California.
Well, and the reality is you have to follow up on your bills. When I did my e-bike safety training bill, AB 1946, a couple years ago, we had to meet with CHP. We had to say, have you talked to the bike groups? We had to, look through, we collaborate really well with them. And so, they were keeping us updated, but you have to track all those things so that it's not, our job isn't quite done when the bill gets signed by the governor. The job is done when the policy is properly implemented, right?
Right, and that may not even be when the bill passes, right? It's going to take years for things.
Yeah. I mean,
you may even need to go back and make tweaks.
Well, that's what we're doing. That I ended surprise billing in ambulance services a couple years ago, and now, of course, insurance companies have found a loophole, and so you have to go back and fix it this next year. Lo and behold, you have to go back and fix it this year, and so so you do that. So some of the things, are things that you work on for a long time. I think that's sometimes, Mate, they would joke with me when I first got elected. And he's like, assembly members, what do you assemble? And I was like, I assemble laws. But we do more than that, right?
Yeah,
it's more than just crafting the law and getting it through and working with your colleagues. It's more than that. So I did feel a need when I first got elected. I had to do it all at once.
Yes.
And the one advice that I would give new members is you do have, if you get reelected every year, or every 2 years, you do have 12 years. Mm-hmm. I'm halfway through. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot.
Yeah.
So it's okay to pace yourself. You know?
I think learning that.
Maybe not take a bite out of 10 apples, but like 3. 3's fine.
Yeah.
3 apples are fine, Maybe a pear.
And the good thing is learning about our colleagues, those in the freshman class, but also more experienced, that they have areas of expertise. They're already working on stuff. Each member doesn't have to solve the whole world's problems.
Yeah,
we can partner with other members.
Yeah, exactly. Like if there are people doing good work, I was like, woo, go do it.
Yeah.
Go do the good work. I'm going to go do the stuff over here. So, yeah. What do you think, when you think about you in a year, what do you think will be different?
I think I might be a little more cynical. Right now, I'm very optimistic.
I know. I look at you all.
But I think a little bit of cynicism helps you be realistic, right? And
I call it pragmatism.
It helps you temper your expectations, and I think that's very good. You get less disappointed when you temper your expectations.
But I think it's important to me as somebody who's been there, going into my 7th year, to feel that optimism again. Because you do, the process, they call it always the sausage making of legislation.
Which sounds gross to me.
I know. Right? Well, are you vegetarian or vegan?
No, not vegetarian, but I don't eat beef and pork.
Oh, yeah. So you're like, oh, that's super weird. Yeah. Yeah. I eat it all, so it's fine. But yeah. But the sausage making, and sometimes that fresh, optimistic approach means that you can approach things in a new way.
Yeah.
That when you're already in the system, I may have already discounted, like, oh, that will be too hard, that path's too hard. But I think that's good that you're coming in. So don't lose too much of that.
No, I can't.
Because that's like part of your bright personality is that like optimism. And you're so, I know I wanted to ask you. You're so smart. So tell me again, for those that don't know, the doctor, she was a doctor of biophysics.
Yes, that's correct.
I don't even know what biophysics are.
Yes, you do. Because let me break it down for you. So biology is life settings,
yes,
right? So everything in the context of life. And physics. So it's just how molecules interact with physical properties in a biological setting. So my PhD, for example, was on how cell membranes change their fluidity, so that's how mobile they are, when a protein binds to its surface. So it's physics, so I'm studying the fluidity of a membrane, but it's in a cell setting. And the impact that would have long term, or as we think about drug development or just basic understanding of biological settings, is what happens to a cell membrane when a virus particle lands on the surface of the cell and inserts its genetic material into a cell. How does that cell structure change? So we know that physics are studies of the physical world and properties of movement and motion and energy. And so this is just all of that in a life setting, in your body.
That sounds like two really hard subjects put together, just to be clear. And when you think about that, and this is probably my last question. When you think about that, when you think about your experience, because we talked about you being a mom and a school board member, but you have this entire training and life experience. Like I was a trained political scientist, right? And everybody forgets that because I did marketing communications for a long time. You had this entire career in the life sciences.
Yeah.
What does that mean for California?
It means that I am a problem solver, that I am an optimist by nature, because scientists, you know what we do, like 90% of what we do doesn't work. Yeah. Yet we keep going. Every single day we wake up and we keep going. And it's not that different from a legislator, is it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I never thought about it like that.
It's not that different.
Not that different.
We're good at working in teams. We're good at finding solutions. We're good at collaboration, right? And
try again.
Yeah, just keep going. Because we will eventually get it right. That is our purpose on this planet, is eventually to do good things. And scientists are very good at doing that. And I think bringing that rational approach to problem solving, but that interest in a common goal and moving the ball forward, I think that's an asset for the state legislature.
I think it is. I had a friend, and we were out exercising, and he was like, he has a very high opinion of scientists. He's like, why don't we have more scientists in the legislature? And I was like, that's such a random question for a jog, like I'm not really clear about that. And he's like, scientists are made to be really good legislators. And he said the exact same thing. Yeah. And I said, well, my friend Darshana Patel is going to be coming in the 76th. So thank you, Darsh, for being here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or share with everyone you know. That's what I'm required to say. So please like, subscribe, and comment and share. Until next time, stay curious, California.